Thanks tuning in. JustProfessor here. You already know how this is going to end. That job interview, you won't get it. That conversation, it's going to go badly. That project, it'll probably fail. You can see the future, and it's always terrible. Except you can't see the future. You're just catastrophizing. And the worst part? Your negative predictions are actually causing the bad outcomes you're so afraid of. This is the fortune-telling error, and it's one of the most destructive patterns your brain can fall into. You predict negative outcomes with complete certainty, even though you have no real evidence. Then you act based on those predictions. You sabotage yourself. You don't try as hard. You give up early. And when things go wrong, you tell yourself, "See, I knew it," without realizing you caused it. You're not seeing the future. You're creating it, and it's ruining your life. So what is the fortune-telling error? It's a cognitive distortion where you predict the future negatively and treat that prediction like a fact. You don't think, "This might not work out." You think, "This definitely won't work out." You don't wonder if people will like you. You know they won't. You skip right past uncertainty and land on the worst possible outcome as if it's already happened. And then you live your life according to that false certainty. Here's why this is so damaging. When you predict failure, you stop trying. Why would you put in effort if you already know it won't work? So you half-ass it. You hold back. You protect yourself from disappointment by not really committing. And then, surprise, you fail. But it wasn't because your prediction was right. It was because your prediction became a self-fulfilling prophecy. You created the outcome you feared by believing it was inevitable. Let me give you a real example. You have to give a presentation at work. Immediately, your brain starts fortune-telling. "I'm going to mess this up. Everyone's going to think I'm incompetent. My boss is going to be disappointed." You're so convinced it'll go badly that you don't prepare properly. During the presentation, you're nervous and distracted because you're waiting for the disaster you predicted. And then you stumble over your words, lose your place, and it doesn't go well. But it's not because you're bad at presentations. It's because you told yourself you'd fail and then fulfilled your own prophecy. Or think about dating. You meet someone you like, but before you even talk to them, your brain is already fortune-telling. "They won't be interested in me. I'll say something stupid. This is going to be awkward." So you act nervous. You don't show your real personality. You're so focused on the rejection you predicted that you make yourself less attractive. And then, when it doesn't work out, you think, "I knew it." But you sabotaged it from the start. The fortune-telling error keeps you stuck in a cycle. You predict failure, which makes you act in ways that cause failure, which confirms your prediction, which makes you predict failure even more strongly next time. It's a downward spiral that feeds on itself, and the longer it goes on, the more convinced you become that you can actually see the future when really you're just creating the future you expect. Here's another way this shows up. Social situations. You're invited to a party. Your brain immediately starts fortune-telling. "Nobody's going to talk to me. I'm going to stand there alone. It's going to be boring and uncomfortable." So you show up already in a bad mood, expecting the worst. You do not make an effort to talk to people because you've already decided it won't work. You stand in the corner looking miserable. And, surprise, nobody approaches you. But it's not because people don't like you. It's because you're giving off energy that says, "Leave me alone." You made your prediction come true. The fortune-telling error also destroys opportunities. Someone offers you a chance to try something new. A new job, a new project, a new experience, and your brain immediately jumps to, "It won't work out. I'll fail. It'll be a waste of time." So you don't take the opportunity, and then you spend years wondering what could have been. You never find out if your prediction was right because you never gave yourself a chance to prove it wrong. This pattern is especially cruel because it feels like you're being realistic. You tell yourself you're just preparing for the worst. You're being practical. You're protecting yourself from disappointment. But you're not. You're guaranteeing disappointment by refusing to try. Real realism would be acknowledging that you don't know what will happen and giving yourself a fair shot anyway. Fortune-telling also makes you miserable in the present. You're not just worried about bad things that might happen. You're treating them like they've already happened. So you're experiencing the pain of failure before you've even failed. You're grieving losses that haven't occurred. You're stressed about disasters that exist only in your imagination. You're living in a future that isn't real and probably never will be. Here's what makes this cognitive distortion so hard to break. Every time your prediction comes true, it reinforces the pattern. You predicted you'd fail, you failed, so now you're even more convinced you can see the future. But you're ignoring all the times your predictions were wrong. All the times things worked out better than you expected. All the times you succeeded despite your negative forecast. Those don't count in your mind because they don't fit the narrative. So you only remember the hits and ignore the misses, which makes you more and more certain that your fortune-telling is accurate. The fortune-telling error also spreads to other people. You predict how they'll react. They're going to be mad at me. They won't understand. They'll think I'm stupid. So you don't communicate openly. You hide things. You avoid difficult conversations. And then the relationship suffers. Not because your prediction was right, but because you didn't give the other person a chance to surprise you. So why does your brain do this? Why does it insist on predicting the worst? Because it's trying to protect you. If you expect the worst, you can't be disappointed. If you're already braced for failure, it won't hurt as much when it happens. Your brain thinks it's doing you a favor by lowering your expectations. But it's not protecting you. It's crippling you, because you can't succeed if you're not willing to risk failure. And you can't risk failure if you've already decided it's inevitable. Your brain also does this because of past experiences. Maybe you failed before, maybe you were rejected or hurt or disappointed. So now your brain assumes history will repeat itself. It uses the past to predict the future without considering that circumstances change, you change, and outcomes aren't predetermined. It's applying old data to new situations and calling it fortune-telling when it's really just pattern matching. So how do you stop the fortune-telling error? How do you break free from this cycle of negative predictions? First, catch yourself doing it. Notice when you're making statements about the future as if they're facts. This won't work. They won't like me. I'm going to fail. Those aren't facts. Those are predictions. And predictions can be wrong. Start labeling them as predictions in your mind. I'm predicting this won't work instead of this won't work. Second, challenge the evidence. Ask yourself what actual evidence you have for your prediction. Not feelings, not assumptions, actual evidence. Most of the time you'll realize you have none. You're just guessing based on fear. And if you're just guessing, there's no reason to treat your prediction like it's certain. Third, consider alternative outcomes. Force yourself to imagine at least 3 other ways things could go. Not just the worst case, the best case, the medium case, the weird, unexpected case. This breaks your brain out of the pattern of only seeing one negative future and reminds you that multiple outcomes are possible. Fourth, test your predictions. Actually, try the thing you're predicting will fail. Keep track of how many times your negative predictions come true versus how many times they don't. You'll probably be surprised at how often you're wrong, and seeing that pattern will help you trust your predictions less. And finally, act as if your prediction is wrong. Even if you can't stop the negative thoughts, act like they're not true. Put in full effort. Be open. Take risks. Behave like someone who believes things will work out, because even if you can't control your thoughts, you can control your actions. And changing your actions can change your outcomes. Look, the fortune-telling error is a trap that feels like wisdom. It feels like you're being smart by preparing for the worst. But you're not preparing. You're giving up before you start. You're robbing yourself of opportunities, experiences, and success because you've decided in advance that it's not worth trying. The truth is, you don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. The future is uncertain, and that's actually good news because it means your negative predictions aren't facts. They're just fears, And fears don't have to control your actions. So next time you catch yourself predicting disaster, remember that you're not a fortune teller. You're just a person with a biased brain that's trying to protect you in the worst possible way. And the only way to prove your predictions wrong is to stop living like they're true. If this made you realize you've been sabotaging yourself with fake predictions, subscribe.